Talk in the Town is, it's a platform that we have tried to create to gather perspectives of various small city-based actors on the relationship between citizens and policies, between people and places, and how
Hmm.
this relationship can be made stronger, how it is being made stronger, and how citizens can inform policy making. So, uh, like leaving apart the definition of city, like we are still talking more about people and places because Anegundi is a village, Hampi is a town, and for that reason, we thought that the relationship that you have been able to establish between the people of Anegundi and the village of Anegundi, that is something that we really want to talk about. Uh, we will have a free-flowing conversation. I will start with an introduction of Ms. Shama Pawar, and then we will use some questions to gather some of these perspectives on this relationship between Anegundi and Ms. Shama Pawar. So, she is an artist, conservationist, designer, social impact leader, and has a deep-seated passion for cultural heritage. Her work began in 1995, and it stemmed from her realization of India's really rich heritage. And she's been instrumental in integrating community development with conservation efforts in Anegundi, which is at the Hampi World Heritage Town. And the effort has been to preserve this historic settlement. She spearheaded the creation of a new eco-craft which used locally sourced banana fiber. She has managed numerous zero impact festivals and events, and her various conservation efforts in the place include adaptive reuse of historic buildings, planning, maintaining public spaces, including getting engaging community along with it, and proposing plantations and reviving cultural revival projects. She's also been a strong advocate of responsible tourism while addressing the challenges that are posed by the growing population and their aspirations in a way that can support conservation and community empowerment. She's been the founder and managing director of Kishkindha Trust since 1997, also a convener of Intact Anegundi Hampi chapter since 2007. Additionally, she is a social entrepreneur and a director of Urama Cultural Residency in Anegundi since 2012. Her various initiatives reflect her commitment to build heritage resources for the future and foster economies based on culture, craft, and responsible tourism. So, if I was to put all of this in one line, I think uh, the effort is to have a holistic model of rural development in the village of Anagundi and in the local areas using heritage conservation, empowering communities, and sustainable crafts. And with that introduction, I would start with my first question, Ms. Pawar, which is about if you could very briefly talk about yourself and your relationship with Hampi and Anegundi and the region.
I was born in Pune, trained as an artist. I always loved villages, and I traveled extensively in in the Western world from a very early age. But I also saw our India, and I was growing up in a city called Pune, which is really a beautiful city. And once I was 15, I started seeing the changes very rapidly. I mean, the things started changing. And I started basically veering towards more like my farm and things like this. I really love nature. Um, as an artist, my father sent me to Hampi the first time, and he was very dear to me. I lost him, after which I basically moved here when I was expecting my son. I came here, and I'd been coming to Hampi since 91. He'd sent me, and I fell in love with it. I mean, that was really a thing that happened, and I think still is the biggest for me after so many years. And then, when I came here, I realized that what was the reason why I left Pune was because it was a beautiful city, and then everything was changing so fast. I lost my landmarks, and I felt that I just wanted to go somewhere where the change is slow, and if I didn't do something, I would lose it. I mean, I would be doing very uninformed way of doing whatever my impact here, and I started my trust with that thought that let us take informed decisions about what happens in a place like this. And since then, it has been like so it's been my endeavor to do things because I'm an artist. Everything comes through creativity for me. So we started rangoli competitions and clean street competitions to keep the village clean because the children defecated in front of each house. And that really worked. And I realized that how we hold on to culture and certain things, and how we can actually pick the best of practices through our culture and make something happen that becomes your inspiration, the past, and in Hampi, I'm very inspired by the past, and I want to go into the future, because you see how well the irrigation works, how pristine the landscape really is, how it has been like standing here like for billions of years, observing, and without like, and here when we come, our footprint, it really concerns me. And as Hampi becomes more and more popular, when I came here in 91 the first time, it was really like when my father told me, I was like, where is this place? Because it really felt like in the middle of nowhere. And till now also people find it very difficult to get to. And still, I mean, we have flights and things like that, is much better than before, but still it's a long way, right? But still it hasn't not far enough, it seems. I feel I've been caught up with. Yeah, that's my relationship with this place.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful relationship. I think a relationship of love is always very beautiful. And I remember
Yeah.
we ran this writing contest, and one of our winners, when we asked her about her relationship with her city, and she said that while I was writing a poem for her city of Patna, she fell in love with it even more. So I
Yeah.
think art has a way of manifesting itself through love, and
Yeah.
the same relationship that you have with Anegundi and Hampi. With that, maybe if you could talk a little bit about your work in the uh, area in Anegundi, which has been a lot about empowering communities and involving them. If you could talk about some of the initiatives, like we know about multiple ones, including the one that you started on banana fibers, and also a very conscious thread of responsible tourism that you've been talking about, given that uh, a lot of our heritage places have become hotspots for tourism. So if you could talk about some of
Destination.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I came here as a traveler, needless to say. And, there were people in those days that who also had come here and lived here. And it was not very difficult to be an anchor around here, because there was nothing there. There was no place for people to stay. So my home was always open to creative people who came and contributed to, whatever I was creating, whether it was at that time banana fiber, we were working with ilkal kaudis. Then I was fixing up an old house at the same time, working with the local carpenter and the masons, realizing that the skills, the way they work with the stone here is like nowhere else. And so there was a lot of these revelations for me. And so because of that, and I was very interested and curious, I kind of got sort of engaging with the community, creating things. And banana fiber was such, but also our little old office and little things that we did, like education to performing arts. I thought it was a very important thing to kind of get that message out of keeping our village clean, letting the children play together, and letting the girls go to school, respecting women, not defecating and not spitting around and things like this through these competitions. So there was this community engagement through cultural activities, which brought the children together regardless of their caste and creeds and things like this. So, I mean, at one point, I remember the children who I was really not well, and they said, Amma, we really like to be part of your project, because instead of fighting and screaming, we now dance and sing together. I know it was a very, actually, it must have helped me to recover from whatever type of malaria I had at the time. So, or like, and then when we started the women, it took very long time, because women didn't walk on the main streets of the village when I started here. And it was very like, we have four main streets, and we have a labyrinth, like historic settlement. It's a fortified village, etc. So it was very like, nobody would come to me, and it took me a long time for very slowly women trickling into my our room. And then the untouchables, they sat outside, they jumped the fence, and I realized that there are all these things to be worked on. So the children's education performing arts came through that all the children should not have these barriers. And that when you sing and dance together, you can actually learn so much, and you learn team building. And I feel, and we planted trees together, we had more rangoli competition. So even simple thing like for the sanitation and keeping the village clean, these clean street and rangoli competitions really brought a sense of pride amongst the community. So first one I did, they were all colors and a lot of colors and everything, and I said, but this is not what, it's not traditional. So I just want the columns and your traditional things of your home village. And so we started these competitions. And then today, everybody is very proud about what Rangoli they put in front of them. They have their own history and thing to it. So it has become a thing of pride. I mean, it just naturally people start cleaning in the village. And now it is very difficult. The solid waste management program that we had like, we taught our sweepers how to sweep. We when we had competition, then we gave chunna to the village people instead of some gifts. uh, uh, we had systems of solid waste management, and until 3 years ago we had a volunteer who worked with us also. And he was a German volunteer, and he's no more, unfortunately, passed away during COVID times. But he inspired somebody in a village about 18 kilometers from here. And he has set up a whole solid waste management system for the panchayats in that area, 10 panchayats, a collective solid waste management unit. And Ferdinand was responsible for that, one of our volunteers, and he manages it beautifully, in Hosali near Hampi. So there are examples that happen, and now our efforts are very too little because we are very small, and the impact of the amount of pilgrims that are coming and the amount of waste that is happening, we don't know how we can now take care of these things. So I think, I mean, so obviously there are a lot of challenges, and we are, as volunteers, are doing great work. We have one another organization, is of young youth, KY, Karnataka Youth Group, and Kopal Youth Group. And then they are cleaning these things, and our children are also joining these things. So, but it's not enough. I mean, I mean, it goes on. I mean, of course, incubating, now we're working with water hyacinth, we are working with gongura, which is a very I think a very fantastic fiber, and crop for nutrition, for fiber and things like that. So I mean, we're working still with our adaptive reuse of houses. We continue to, like, the local authorities close our things, and they don't allow any businesses to happen, but we have collaborated with the university to create these cultural industries and creative economies. And so that, like, and the women who are the artisans now, they have also become more sure of themselves. There's a much I think there's a kind of a, while there are challenges, there is a nice, like, you come to Anegundi, there is things happening, there is energy, and that's a very good thing. I mean, in it happens on many fronts.
Yes, I remember that energy. We both we both witnessed that energy. And when we went around the village along with you, I still remember, and I'm sure Yutik also remembers, the love with which a lot of those villagers still were talking about the efforts that that
But
took
the
place over.
thing is now, to tell you the truth, like, I hardly go to Anegundi. What has happened? How I can say that it has resulted in something, that we have community members who are taking their role seriously. They are running it, and there are people who are from outside who want to come and want to be part of it. So they're also giving their bit. So I think it's a wonderful ecosystem because there is something happening.
Hmm.
So it also has its own pulse beyond me going there. I mean, I hardly go there actually now.
That's
I'm
some.
working on something on my farm, so it's my own experiment. So I'm working on something, but yeah, so that's the best part, I think.
So that is
Uh,
something that would be really something that so now when the idea of cleanliness and Swachh Bharat, from whichever pathways and channels, it has become planted in the consciousness of a lot of people. But
hmm.
starting 15 years ago, 25 years ago, what was there a tipping point, or was it incremental? Like, how did you break into the consciousness of people at that time to be able to make this into a people's owned movement, like not necessarily a movement of a very large scale, but getting this ownership into the communities. Like there are preconceived notions that this is something that government has to do, but to be able to say that you can do this, like was there like one small step which continued becoming bigger, or was there like a big bang because of one particular event, or
No, I feel it's like baby steps towards a bigger picture. And I think it's work in progress. In fact, now we are again back to square one with the impact that we are having. But when we did it, it was
Hmm.
really all these small steps of taking it together. We were like always a team of people, like the youth. They we used to hang out, and get things done, decide. And there was a lot of receptiveness, and people were not so engaged with their phones in the time. So when there's something
Hmm.
happening, somebody's carrying a rangoli comes on, there is a sense of pride, and there was a sense of all people to doing things together. I think that was really very nice, and I can see those people who were involved, at the time in volunteering and part of our education, the performing arts, or planting trees and nurturing and whatever. It really has
Hmm.
made those citizens, younger people today, more interesting citizens who are doing different things. You can see, like the way they are dealing with their own life, there's much more focus, and they've tried to do things more consciously. I mean, it is that you can see that it makes an impact. I think to engage younger people in activities that actually, you hands-on activities in your village to celebrate the beauty and the culture and heritage. I think every destination should do that because it allows you to rediscover your heritage and your and celebrate it. And I think these things are very important. Like just a simple act of rangoli is such a proud thing of pride here. So I think and then people, like we have a beautiful dance company which is called Chandrakala Bhumi. The first generation all got married, went, but there's a second generation happening. So somehow it keeps on ticking. Um
Hmm.
it doesn't kind of stop at a workshop. It's not a scheme that is over when,
Hmm.
it's not like that. I think the continuation comes because it is with communities. It is
But
engaging us.
within the community at that time versus now, like were there, a specific category of people, like women, young children, within that also any category, like which were more engaged or which were champions from the word go? And
Youth,
is it the
youth was
same
the
now?
first, and now, yeah, it's the same now also. Youth and women. Uh,
Okay.
Women took time, but youth was a little bit simpler.
Hmm.
To begin with, when we started, it was with the youth, and then the women trickled in much later. Like they was a bit slow because they didn't walk on the main streets. They didn't know where if they should come and do anything. And banana fiber was discovered in '99,
Hmm.
and it kind of picked up. It took some time, but then now it's a big thing. I mean, big for us. I don't believe in huge scale. Like I want to set up an institute and I want to make it really small and beautiful, because I think we have to realize that when you do a training center in such places, even if it means like how to serve a meal or how to cook something, whatever it is, the thing that you need for responsible tourism, we have to create our, like, all the experience through a particular scale which belongs to the place. We should not try to make it too urban. We should drop a lot of urban things in places like this to have its own something
Yes.
authentic about it. And the scale is very important, because what happens is we build buildings and then there is no pulse in it, or somehow it is too posh for people to relate to it. So I think, and slowly but surely we can uh, really nurture that sensibility amongst the community. And I think that
Can
is
you
a role.
So can you use because like we've heard about and we read about the banana fiber, the experiment that you just started, but for the audience, if you could maybe lay out that what the initiative was and how it involved communities over time, maybe just to give a view of
Okay.
what the thing
Okay.
was.
So
Yeah.
banana fiber thing was really like in 99, a friend of mine wanted something, and then we made a little strip, and then he wanted it to be twisted into rope. So we made that, me and my Varlaka, who's my
Mhm.
right hand in the village till today. And then when we saw that bundle of thing that we had created, I said, "Hey, you can do something with this. And then we sat on that for a long time, and we started creating this rope with a group of like 6 other curious people who had no other business. It was not a
Mm.
paid job or anything. 6 of us just, I think for 8 months, literally just sat together and figured it out how to make this rope. Then my son started going to school and primary school, and I said I want to make the first tiffin basket for him, so we made that. And I was lucky because I was volunteering for Ever Satyu, and we put that basket in that one exhibition just out of whatever. And Minister Textile and some designers discovered us there, and it was a thing. It grew, and then working with women, and they used to roll it on their thighs before. Now we do it on the rubber sheets. Now I am working on like a machine which will make it much better than any manual machines. But it with a small group of artisans, we started creating this without anything, and then finally in 2002 we got a small grant from Minister of Textiles. But it really was about just engaging in it. Like I actually spent, like, it was not because I had a scheme or a thing, I just did it because I had people around me who were curious, and there was no opportunity other than working in the rice fields, which is very seasonal job. So I said, okay, let me try that. So I spent my time and my whatever money I had on this. I was not thinking about a scheme and all those things, but then we were discovered. So it happened after 3 years. Some support came, but it really became something that women were really excited about. And it was also really something that we could actually sit together and do this together. And there was a sense of safety. Like they said, when we leave, why we come? Because we forget all our problems at home. That's why we come here. That was the reason why they came. And I think that should always be the reason for doing something. And then it became very popular. Today we have almost 2,000 women who are not just our artisans, but other artisans in South India who are doing the same thing. We have been copied, and I take it as a great compliment. And I'm now working on other fibers.
Water hyacinth, you said you started
Water
working water
hyacinth,
hyacinth.
I would like somebody else also can create it. I just think there should be fully biodegradable nappies with water hyacinth, so that people can stop having that kind of, I mean, these are the things that I think very important. So when you create something, if it is ecologically sound, aesthetically beautiful, useful, what more do you want? Like, and it also gives you a good experience of working on something interesting. Uh, you know, yeah.
So I think building on the some of the, given that Hampi and Anegundi is a destination town and gets a lot of, and you mentioning that there are sometimes almost in a week there are lakhs of people that descend upon the town. How has the theme of responsible tourism been uh, seen in the community? Because like I a lot of us come from these tourist towns also, and this is a, at least in the local community, this is always a challenge where you're trying to talk about slow tourism and responsible tourism, and then people who own businesses, they want to talk about getting larger numbers so they can make more money. So what are some of the wins or some of the challenges that you see for any town which is a tourist town to have a realistic version of a responsible tourism? And what has your experience been in uh, getting this
Okay,
through for uh,
under normal circumstances, if there is a rural place and there is tourism happening, or a heritage place where there's tourism happening, I feel that attention to scale and expansions of villages is very important.
hmm,
Um, we also have to make sure that the planning authorities avoid this ribbon effect, and we loss of visual corridors as we travel from A to B from an anchor. I feel that in every service, whether it is maintaining a garden, public garden, trees, garbage,
hmm,
building something new, or fixing old, there has to be a way of doing it. There has to be some bylaws to keep the scale and the authenticity of the place. We have to see heritage as a resource and not a problem. We have
Yes.
to grow it. Like very often there'll be something, maybe it's a craft, maybe it's a tree. We have to nurture that. Maybe it's a recipe. So nurturing of that heritage resource is very important, not to forget that, because we are very highly impressionable citizens, I think, in India. We are looking at everything which doesn't belong to us as better. So here we have created models and of physical proofs of concepts, whether it is architecture, whether it is a public space, whether it is a garden, whatever it is, and the craft and the food festivals and whatever we have done. But
Right.
unfortunately, the Hampi in the World Heritage Area and its management is being, there isn't an anchor in that authority which actually has been exposed to something, and or they're like long enough there to do something which really is small and beautiful in a place like this. Uh, we are facing a lot of problems. I mean, we had rural tourism project, which is a great success, in Anegundi. But then today we don't get any permissions for any of those houses. So nobody can run a homestay, nobody can run a shop. While big buildings are coming in Hanuman Halli, local community is deprived of any opportunity under the garb of that you cannot have any commercial exploitation. I mean, that is not exploitation. I think constitutional right to make a living is being
Yes.
denied. So I am very, very concerned about Hampi, because what will happen is people will sell their lands and buildings will. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what is going to happen actually, and people will leave. I don't know. I mean, it's all kind of like, even when there is a growth of. I mean, without bylaws and guidelines, a destination should not happen. Actually, it should not grow, because we lose the very essence of it. And how we can create, like I shared something with you with the way how any infrastructure, then it has jobs that it creates, and based on those things you have to create skilling of the community, so that they know how to take care, even how to wait a table or serve a feast. um, Look, create natural decorations. So what we do is, when we do our santes and all, we create those experiences. Like we had with NIFT some years ago, they kept on coming earlier, but then I had didn't have them for many years, and then when they came, I said, let's just put up a pop-up exhibition of what you did with the
Right.
artisans. I think it creates a great exchange and momentum, and you need to create such examples where the community benefits from uh, the event, but it is zero impact. So our Santhes, for example, the fairs we used to have, which have stopped for a while now, but it really was feeding all the local food. People created nice natural things, they sold them. Then there was whatever craft was happening, somebody was dancing, there was a bonfire, there was one folk dancer, whatever, there was a place where you could register with the guides, like people uh, different kinds of tours, whether it is, one is a historic guide, but you could have a bird guide, you could have a village guide, you could have just a waterways guide. So that sort of a thing, so which is again, uh, and really this plastic thing is becoming a very big problem. And I really wish there would be like beautiful water spouts all over India, where we can conserve the water and give it, for drinking. you know I think these things are very important, that you take care of. The god is in the detail, and I think to keep authentic and small, and not because the whole experience changes. For a
Right.
destination is very important, I feel, to keep that scale in every way.
Right. I think for a lot of the historic heritage towns across India, maintaining that authenticity and not becoming homogenized is a big challenge, where you keep getting the same kind of experiences, people wanting to have same kind of experience for some reason. Like no matter if they're in Hampi or they're in Varanasi, having same kind of shopping experiences, having same kind of culinary experiences. I think it's a challenge which I think a lot of cities are facing. In fact, not very far from where you are. During the road trip only, we were in a city. Uh, uh, I don't recall the name, but uh, at that time we met somebody there, and he mentioned that in last 15 years of him staying in that city, all the hotels all the hotels in the central part of the city have been sold by the people who have been living there for multiple years and now are completely owned by the biggest city which is next to it. So I can, when you were referring to the fact that this is something that might happen, that people might not stay if there are not the kind of opportunities that are there for them, if they are not allowed to open homestays. So I think that's a challenge that a lot of these cities have been facing. But in light of that, are there any, you know, any signs of hope? You were talking about the destination plan and about the green mobility plan. If you could maybe also talk about some of these opportunities which are not realized as of now, but which do offer
No,
a
no, no. I
window
mean,
of
the thing
opportunity.
is, you just have to keep working on it. So whether it is opportunity or not, that is to be seen. But I
Mm.
think what I do is when there's a problem up there, I work on many other things on the side. So hopefully it'll. But yeah, so what we are doing is for the mobility, I am making a little noise about it. We are trying to raise funds for it so we can plant trees and nurture them and manage them properly. We are fine tuning a mobility plan for the pilgrims, where the whole mobility plan will have under tree cover. It is our dream plan for Kishkinda because Kishkinda was a forest in mythology. While Ayodhya was a city, this was where Hanuman was born. And there is a lot of beautiful descriptions of the Madhubanas and Jambuvanas and all that. So I said, why not look at our heritage, how it was like, in Ramayana. And so they also say that there's a lot of medicinal plants here because of, and trees, because at Sanjeevani Hill, when he carried it, it fell here and all that. So we have been working with the conceptual plan with KSRDPRU. I mean, I have worked on the basic concept of um, uh, by foot mobility of a smaller Kishkinda currently right now, which is Anjanadri, Rishimukh and Shabri, Shabri's Pampa Sarovar. How we can walk in that area under pathways which are tree covered, and then under tree cover you have whatever facilities. And if it falls in some private lands, what benefits can they get and what guidelines they can have? And how do you create certain like growing of heritage resources, how we can actually have mobility under those three things, and whether farmers can have a collective together towards growing of let's say a resource from which we can benefit from value addition and things like that, because I work with this RDPR university right now. So there is horticulture, agriculture, and value addition concept through these plantations. So they're not just decorative plants or something, but it is actually planting that many jamuns and that many sitafals or whatever it is. So we try to see, and also there is enough areas in our plan for monkeys. So for that to become uh, a tourism attraction where you can, if you keep them fed, because there is one monkey forest in Bali, and I only found out that the only way they keep them is by overfeeding them. So it becomes a great way of keeping the monkeys in their forest, so that the horticulturists can actually, like, this can also happen effectively, because right now Hanuman's birthplace is full of Hanumans, and I know what it takes to keep my trees and things unharmed. So I think these are the kind of, like, so this kind of planning really should happen. And uh, so I'm hoping, I mean, I'm optimistic, I wake up very optimistically normally. And there are young people who are also very interested, like local communities. So one of our students from who is now in this Gadag University of RDPR, who was part of our education through performing arts, is now studying GIS and working on this plan with me as an intern. And for me, that gives me hope. That, I mean, he insisted and drove me crazy until I got him a guide. He said, I only want to work under you. I want to do this. And I got somebody. I was very lucky to have very gracious people who have come and visited here. So from Gubi lab, Sudhira, he came forward and he said he's going to, help us, and he's mentoring us. So, and he's got somebody else. So I think there is hope. I mean, I cannot say. And then we have all these volunteers from Gangavati who are like collecting all the garbage, from Anegundi and everything. So it's a lot of a positive, what can I say, things are happening. I mean, I just hope, I think the younger generation sees it here, and I hope that they will, work on this thing as a community, to say, that we don't want this to become a garbage dump. We don't want this. We don't want to lose this. This is not Kishkinda. So I'm hoping that that will happen through those. So engaging with local community at different levels and appreciating them, and nurturing what they do, because whatever we do is very normally very green and only with local resources. So engaging more and more communities as much as possible, and setting up of that small cultural industry center where we can train people in zero impact tourism, responsible tourism, because it's really food, experience, aesthetics, peace are the things that I think people are looking for when they come to a place like this.
I think also goes on to show that if there is an intent, then of course there would be a way that would
They
be
will-
found, including the
Yeah,
example that you just the boy. Uh,
yeah.
I, I just towards I wanted to ask, like you already referred to some of these interfaces, but what are some other potential or actual interfaces with various government programs and policies, and ways in which you can influence them or you've been influencing? Like you talked
We
about
had
some of
this
these
craft
partnerships with.
tourism village program came through from Ministry of Textiles, because they actually based it on what happened in Anegundi. Our one of our regional directors, he was very interested, because we had rural tourism project and we had the banana fiber cluster, and it
Okay.
became a success, and everybody knows Anegundi because of his banana fiber. They said, why? So he said, why don't we do this banana fiber cluster and make this craft tourism village? We actually wrote the DPR as intact, and we brought in the funds, but they could not really be interested in fussing over 200 artisans' homes.
Hmm.
So the money went back. But I got a call again, and there is a possibility of it reopening, because they realized that it was wrong. And I said, if we are going
Hmm.
to do so, I said, I would like to now at this point, I would like to make sure that we don't want PWT to make it, or anybody else, because they don't have the sensibility. Engage our local masons. So I said, I will come back to you, because they know how to build it. They know, and they should have the opportunity. If it is a rural tourism, it should not be PWD building it. It should be local traditional masons. Craft of everything should be it should be part of your strengthening the cultural industries, or create and the craft of whatever it wherever it belongs. So I have taken a little time, and I said I will come back to you. So I think these are interesting things, and uh, I mean, I'm hoping that with Department of Horticulture, Forest, we will be able to do more with what we want to do. Um, as an interface, we have been like, I'm on district tourism committee. I have been given like many inputs to the Karnataka Hyderabad uh, advisory committee and all that, but it's not things are not happening for many years. So uh, every convergence, I mean, I sit with sheets and try to figure out schemes and how we can do something. But working with KSRD PRU University, I think that's a very interesting thing, because they are rural development panchayat raj students, and they might be able to, like, that is the reason why I'm trying to work with them to see whether they can follow this.
Hmm.
So everybody's interested in tourism here. But how do we do it? That rural tourism was a beautiful project. Now we are losing most of the architecture. All of it. We have very little left in Anegundi also, but still there is a charm. There is a charm. I cannot deny. But and it should not go all wrong. But yeah, so I
So.
think these are all the efforts. Recently, we had a UNESCO visit. They liked what we are
Hmm.
doing, and they said this is really exactly what about it. I said, it's not about we need like a pat on the back from UNESCO. But if you want us to take a workshop for the local community, they should also get benefit with it. So if I follow guidelines, then maybe I can set up a homestay. Give us permission. Based on this, you can do something so that it becomes, useful. Because otherwise, if I want to build a temple, I'll get money. But if I want to fix an old house, it's a loan that I can't really, unless I can do something with it at least for 5 years to get some returns to pay for that loan. And the bylaws, the guidelines. back to scale. I think scale is very important again, and we're trying to continue our
So
yeah. So I've been Havama ke saath, I don't know those
the Hampi welfare, no, what is it?
Hampi
Havama
World
is the,
Heritage Area Management Authority. So
okay. But does the influx of tourists in Hampi have a material impact on Anegundi in, or because of jurisdiction, is there a difference between Anegundi
no,
and
no,
Hampi, or
Anegundi
these
is
schemes
our district
equally not
equally
separate?
because of Hanuman's birthplace. It has become a pilgrimage now. So what we
Okay.
have is pilgrimage.
Okay. So it's not similar in terms of the reason for visit, but the numbers are
Yeah.
still there. So
Yeah,
if people are
numbers
coming
are
to
there.
Hampi,
I don't know
they
how
use.
economic. I mean, like, there is, it benefits a lot of these coconut sellers and plastic toy sellers and plastic whatever sellers. So, I mean, the
Hmm.
dream would be that we create our local ecologically sound souvenirs. It's an opportunity, you know. And if we could manage to get something like a Spurti program or government program, that where we can actually create a whole souvenir building, like natural souvenir building, growing cottage industry, it would be fantastic, because we have a we have a society under us which is called Haridharti Rural Development Society, made of all the artisans. It is so that Kishkinda can teach, train, because I get ideas, so teach, train, and then they can run their businesses. So it, and then they can
So
benefit
this
from
is
the schemes. That's
this,
how I'm
this is the
trying.
interface. This is the potential
Yeah,
interface that, yeah, because what you talked about earlier, right? That in terms
yeah,
of creating opportunities for the local population to be
yeah,
meaningfully and gainfully employed within the
yeah, yeah,
location. So
yeah, and also
the
with,
artisans are one
yeah.
category. So artisans is one category, youth, so tourist guides, and like, are there other opportunities that are available through government schemes and programs, but which do not materialize in the city, which could provide these opportunities to the locals? So,
Yeah, because I mean, we are constantly working on it. Somehow, craft seems to be a decent thing here. I think food should become that very good
mm,
thing, because I feel any destination needs food, and
yes.
we have a very fertile land here, and it's all irrigated land. So I think one of the things I want to do is, through these forests, is creation of food. Like, it is about growing of heritage resources, whether it is a mango tree of Madhuban, which is famous. Like, at the age of 4, that tree starts giving you mangoes. So you could actually have fantastic things here that become. So I think one has to have that vision of what is it that tourists needs. They need good food, they need clean, good accommodation, and polite, lovely service. And the landscape is there for you to. You don't have to do very much in Hampi to be, enthralled by the beauty. So, storytelling and all these things can happen. So, therefore, I'm trying to set up my center as I'm working on it. Right now, we are training 30 people there in water hyacinth craft through Minister Textiles program. We have a whole corn thing that is started with creating something with corn fiber. I'm working on the Gongura fiber. All these things are happening at the center. But right now, they're more craft oriented, and there's one entrepreneur's training program happening there. But it has to be strengthened so that people know. And other than making an entrepreneur with consciousness, is what is my interest. Yes, you can make money, you can create business, but let's see what impact are you having on the soil here. Because I think in a place like Hampi or any destination, I think it's very important. So those are the things that I said, don't just run after money, but try to take care while you're doing it. That's what we are trying to instill amongst the people we have around us.
But just in your experience, have people from Hampi, like the youth from Hampi, have they been leaving? Is there a, like, in terms of
Not yet. No,
the
no, no. Not.
education?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult for people to leave this place. But they might sell their lands.
Okay. Great. I think we might just be able to stick to the timeline as you had hoped. And maybe towards the last part of this conversation, of course, there's a lot of things that I want to ask and talk about, but in interest of time, I wanted to ask if you have one message that you want to give to people, like people who are trying to initiate or who are already working on something similar that you're doing, using culture and heritage as a mainstay for people of the community, to create an authentic experience for the city, to create that unique relationship with the city. If you want to give one message or
One message is very different.
opening.
But I think it's good to celebrate what you have there with the community, in the
With the community.
spirit. Yeah. And then you will have something special happening. This is what I feel. And then play whatever with community first. That will give it its own life. So it's not dependent on you.
Yes.
I think
I think
that's my message. It
yes.
should be engaging.
I think
And not like NGO. It should be fun. It should be you
not
should
hold
feel.
on to it as your own.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
True.
what it is. I think yeah.
No,
That's
that's a very pertinent message, and I'm sure there are our audience would find it most engaging, and I hope that those who listen to it will find a chance to go and visit you. We hope that we get a chance again to come to
Please
Anegundi and
come, please
Hampi, and
come. All of you and you also, because I think it is there is a living thing happening. So it's a nice thing to experience, to see how it can actually lead. I was hoping that Hampi will adopt this, and we have 30 villages, and it'll happen there. Maybe it will, because it has all the problems and all the positive things together, like India. So it's a small model where you have two districts and 30 villages, a lot of historic things. So it's interesting. So yeah,
no, and we wish you all the best and
thank
congratulate you again for this incredible journey, this living journey of change. And as you said that you just keep at it, and
yeah.
thanks for your time.
Thank you so
And we'll
much.
be once we when finalize, we will publish it and we'll share snippets and the whole video with you soon.
Thank you.
And
That'll be great. Let's stay in touch so we can maybe make a difference.
yes,
Also, maybe exchange ideas, do something together on the ground and not only virtually. That'd be great.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Ms. Pawar.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
talking to you.
Yeah.